Hi, everyone. Margie Oleson, developer of Team Accelerator. The worst advice I have gotten so far in my life is don't give anything away for free. Don't share your information. Don't be kind and generous with your stuff because if you do, someone else is going to make money off of it. And the truth is, the more we share and the more we work together on solving these issues with the information we each have, the more we're a collective on that, the better the world is. Always share, always be generous, and it will always come back to you.
I love that. I love to share, but who told you not to share? When did you get that? Like when you
More
were
than
starting
one
out or
person. I've paid
ah,
coaches. I've paid coaches to tell me that.
oh my gosh. That's horrible. That's horrible.
Mhm.
Well, so how did you like tell me how the opposite of that has paid off for you?
When I learn about quantum physics and energy and the way we show up in the world, that's a scarcity mindset. When we are open, if someone asks you for help and you help them, in the back of your mind you might remember the thousand times you've heard that someone will help you someday too. You're not doing it as tit for tat, you're doing it because that's how to be a person with each other in the world. But the more that I give away and the more that I'm generous and the more that I participate in the grander conversation, the more I learn and the more that comes back to me. It's been proven to me over and over again. So I let that be settled research in my mind. That research is now settled.
Awesome. Well, I love that. I'm glad that you're going to share some awesome stuff with us today. So we titled this conversation, our second one here, Working Genius. So that
Yes.
was a Pat Lencioni book. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. And I want to start by saying that my foray into organizations was after being in corporate America for 30 years and wondering why does everybody struggle with how to be a leader and how to lead a high performing team. And then I back and earned my doctorate. And in the 4 years of coursework, I learned that we know what we need to know. We had already known what we need to know for 30 years at that point. Now it's more than 40. So then I wanted to understand, okay, what's getting in the way? Well, what's getting in the way is the way we execute in organizations, very complex organizational dynamics going on there, a lot of different moving parts. But we've known what we know in order to be high performing leaders. And we have to work with the way that we learn and what we know now about the brain in order to make that stick. And so the last 20 years of neuroscience, I package that with something like Working Genius and how we know what we need to be a leader and have high performing teams and put it all together for organizations.
Outstanding. So define what Working Genius is for those who are
Mhm.
unfamiliar with the term.
So, Working Genius is an assessment, it's a model. If you're familiar with Strength Finders or Myers Briggs or DISC, I love all of those. They each serve different purposes. Lencioni put out, and his founders, his group, Table Group, put out Five Dysfunctions of a Team more than 20 years ago. And then in the last couple of years, they landed upon this theory that there is a sequence to how we do things, and there are natural proclivities, natural geniuses in us for certain aspects of those sequences. And so when an organization is always behind budget, they're always missing out on their budget, or they're always putting something out in the market that didn't actually go well, or they don't get to market, or they don't offer the new service, or they don't have clients. You can usually look in the sequence of what they identified in Working Genius to find where you're spending way too much time or not enough time. And once I took the assessment for myself and started working with teams on it, I knew almost immediately it is freeing to learn where we can spend most of our time because we're so good at that. We're so natural, and how to lead as a leader for a team to make sure that each of those components is present. So,
Mm.
this is what I do to work with organizations going forward.
Oh, great. So that is not just an assessment, but also then that opportunity to really get in the weeds and work with the big stuff that helps us
Correct.
there. So you said there's six types. So what is
Yep.
your type? And what does that mean?
My type. So the acronym, I'll give you the six types and then I'll talk about me. And let me just say that the way that Lencioni and his team present this is it's a teamwork and productivity model. And I would agree. So we may try different things at work to come together as a team and to be more productive, but they may not feel right, or it may not be it may take too long, or something happened along the way. This has been the most easily accessible, quickest way to get such important information. And they use the acronym WIDGET. So there are 6 working geniuses. And the way they approach this is we each have 2 in us that are working geniuses. And then we have a couple of working competencies, which means we're really good at it, but it may not bring us joy and energy. And then we have 2 working frustrations. And the widget stands for W, wonder. So imagine the life cycle of a project. Or imagine you're planning a move. You're moving from one building to another. Okay, so with the end goal in mind, you've moved in and everything is set up and everybody has what they need. So in widget, it starts with wonder. The first people asking the question, should we move? Why are we where we are? This building is not giving us what we need, or this location is not giving us what we need. They're the first ones to start raising issues and asking the question. So then I are the inventors. Some working genius person right now is going, I actually know where we could move, or I know what we need in our new space. Now, that is not my working genius. I'm not sitting around and creating all day, but the next letter is D, and D is discerning. And discerners have an intuitive, natural ability to listen to an idea and say, oh, I think that's not going to work. Or, you know what? I think you hit that spot on. Now, I am a W and a D. So I ask a lot of questions and I have a lot of opinions. I used to think that was a problem. Now I know that's how I show up. So now we've gone through WID. So you have people asking questions. Okay, now we wonder, is this the right space for us? You have inventors who come up with ideas about staying in the current space or going to a new space or being all remote. They have a lot of ideas and they're putting them down. And then the discerners weigh in and say, I can see that this is going to be helpful here and here, but you're going to have problems here. Once the decisions are made, yep, we're going to move. Now we get into the GET. The galvanizers are the ones in your organization that rally the people and make stuff happen. Not everybody is good at that, or even if they're good at it, they don't have energy for it. Those are important people because they're taking your ideas and turning it into fruition. The E, the enablers, are geniuses at doing stuff and getting it done. So they know how things get done in your organization. They know how to help. They want to help. And then the T closes the loop. The T checks it off the list. The T makes it so that you have finished the project. So when you go through widget, the asking questions, the inventing, the discerning, the rallying the troops and enabling, and then checking it off the list to come to completion. If you find that your projects don't follow that sequence, it's because you're spending too much time in one area or not enough. And so we work with the team to develop all of that, think about that, and start to talk about it in that way. I'm not able to hear.
Yeah, that's because I didn't hit mute. So
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So the T, is that for tie it together, or what's the
Tenacity.
T?
Yes.
Tenacity. Oh,
Tenacity.
cool.
There are people who really get a lot out of checking something off the list. In a Friends episode, when they're going to London, Ross and Monica learned in their families, check, got my passport, check, suitcase packed, check. And they looked around and
Mhm.
said, is that weird? Some people, that is their genius, is bringing it all home.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Wow. Well, I gotta definitely read that book. So wonder and discerning are your two, and those in some ways, don't those almost feel like they're opposites, that they pull on each other a
It is
little
a
bit?
bit of it is a bit of a challenge. And when we do the assessment and we work with teams, we talk about their pairings. So my pairing is a WD. And there are a lot of different pairings. People come the way they come. And so you're free when you know information. So that helps. Yes, I'm having a lot of questions and I don't have solutions. I'm not an now we all have all 6 in us. So let's be clear. We all have all 6 in us, but they're not all geniuses for us. So when I did my assessment and got my results, I could just feel the little tears come out of my eyes because I felt seen. I've spent my entire career and as a family member and as a student asking a lot of questions and giving a lot of opinions. And for so many iterations, it felt like it was not welcome. And so
Wow.
in order to be a team player or a better leader, I tried to tamp those down. Margie. ask fewer questions, give fewer opinions. Then I take this assessment and it hit my discerning. My discerning knew, my discerning got it. Oh, I'm good at that. And when you have your team are full of enablers who are really good at getting stuff done, or their tenacity, it matters to them so much that you check the item off the list and move on. If you don't have a lot of people hanging out in the wonder and discerning realm, your solutions aren't great and your decisions are not great. So it sounds simple. It sounds like, how is it possible my organization could get enough strategic value out of something like this? I'm telling you, it's everything. And then what happens is you implement, so have your leadership team, the leader and the leadership team go through this assessment, and then they start to come up with, almost without asking, examples of where they didn't use this information well, where they got off on a tangent, or they never quite actually got to completion. And so now they can start using this language. And the emotional, when I got a little teary-eyed, that's actually pretty normal. People start to feel a kind of an affirmation that it's just okay to be who I am. Now, let me say, you're not going to start firing people. Okay, well, you don't have the right widget letters that I need. No. It's not about that. It's about pulling people in who have certain geniuses to help with a particular meeting or a certain brainstorming time. But then you're going to start to remember, don't invite Margie to a meeting when we've already made all the decisions and we're starting to produce. Just don't invite her. She's going to sit and W and D, and you don't need that. And she can't help it. And she's a good person. And then if you're looking at now, you have something new, Margie, start with Margie and start with the inventors, and then don't go into execution until you have worked out that it's the right idea, you've got some solutions, and the discerning folks feel comfortable with that. And then your galvanizers are the one that rally the troops. So I actually have a competency in galvanizing. I'm an extrovert. I know how organizations run. I know how to rally. I could take a 75-person meeting and spend 3 hours and do strategic planning and get everybody excited about it, but it doesn't feed my soul. It doesn't give me energy. So I can do it. But what we've learned is burnout can happen when people spend way too much time in their competencies. Less about the frustration. That seems to be more obvious to people. It's when you have whole jobs, your whole day is executing a competency, but it's not your genius. So I can do that and I will do that, but I will spend a majority of my time using my W and my D to add so much more value and have it be a better day for me.
Ooh, that sounds awesome. So we do all that, right? We know when to plug people in or not. How does Top Team how does your accelerator, how does that fit into that, Margie?
So Top Team Accelerator has 4 pillars. Teamwork and commitment, which is clarity and alignment, and the accountability piece, which is the operations, and then we pull it all together into performance. That first pillar, teamwork, is all about the team and the leader feeling comfortable that the team is cohesive, that they have gelled, they are a well-oiled machine. And what that means is they're not gossiping about each other. They're not complaining to the leader about each other. They're not going back to their own teams and gossiping and complaining about their peers and rowing their boats in different directions. They have set aside that kind of politic culture, and they are starting to have real conversations. And so one of the first things we do is the working genius assessment. And what I love about it, besides the fact that it does hit people at home, it gives them a way to feel good about who they are. They can usually come up with very quick examples of when their genius was in play and what an experience was like that. That starts to feel like data to them. We're not giving them some assessment that's like, we don't even know if it works. No, they really can go to very concrete examples of where that was helpful or where it would have been helpful. Once you start having conversations that sound like that, when you're really focusing on the work and you're really wanting people to follow the sequence and really have good meetings, so we fix your meetings and really have good go to market strategies or a whole program from beginning to end, that gossip and complaining starts to go down. That is one of the first steps in gelling as a team, and you didn't gel on it as a team because you went off somewhere and had a fun weekend together. You can do that, but I haven't found that that is as helpful as talking about the real work, using the real goals and the real current priorities, running through Working Genius to figure out who we are on the team, who's on the bus, and then what do we have going on right now that would benefit from this information. And pretty soon your team has become closer and they become more self-aware, more team aware of each other, and they work better together. And now we can build and do more great things as a team.
Okay. So what are some of the pitfalls with that? Like what do we need to be aware of so that we don't that doesn't fail?
So the other thing that we've learned in the last 20 years is what we've gotten that's so great out of neuroscience. And so for 40 years now, we've known what you need to be a leader, how to grow a leader, and then how to grow a high performing team. So we've had that for 40 years. Well, why isn't everybody just doing that then? Well, because the brain doesn't take in information, for adults especially, by just sending them to a training and then sending them back to work. So the truth is, organizations are not training leaders. They are not developing leaders. It's not natural born, because we learn from everybody around us and they didn't get it naturally either. So if you say that you have leaders and you expect them to know how to be a leader, you're not growing them the way we grow accountants and supply chain folks. So the first thing we do is take all the great information we know from neuroscience in the last decades, and we say, oh, we need to, let's say, introduce Working Genius, do the assessment, work with people, take a list of the 5 biggest things going on in your leadership team right now. What are the goals that you're going after right now? And then start to use what we know about the brain to actually create some good decisions, make some changes, and have them stick. So I would say what leaders don't realize is, and teams, what you're doing all day, those are habits. So if I'm wanting to go to the gym more often or eat better, I look at my habits. But I don't think anybody's talking at work about how the way I lead a meeting, the way I hold my people accountable, the way I manage things like gossip and complaining, those are all habits. So when we have new information about what a leader really needs to do and how they need to hold people accountable, what behaviors, if they haven't developed those habits, they're not doing that. So Working Genius starts with a concrete structure, and then we build in what we need to know, how the brain learns. Because if you're not using the brain the way that it is designed to learn and change, your habits are eating your goals for breakfast. So we work with the brain. And the secret sauce in is, let's take what we know about the brain and let's help the leader and the leadership team grow into high performance with pieces that are accessible and doable. And they've always been, they just didn't know about it. And so they haven't had it at their fingertips.
Hmm. So what's the first step then? What do they do? Do you recommend they read the book? Do you recommend they take I know you've got a
Yes.
free assessment now.
Yes.
What do you recommend?
So Top Team Accelerator has the 4 pillars: teamwork, commitment, accountability, and performance. You can go to topteamaccelerator.com and click on the assessment button and take the assessment right there. And you can have your team members do that as well. Now, I would encourage you to take the assessment and feel like you can be brutally honest. You don't have to tell anybody else what your results are, and you don't have to worry that your numbers don't fit a high score because your team has been doing their habits the old way. The more honest you are about where you're at, the better chance you have of applying the resources. And then there's a button there to go to my website, and you'll get all kinds of resources for how to fix your meetings today, how to develop your own self-awareness today, how to build your leadership team and change the structure and change the way that you interact with them. All of those resources are there. And then I'm on LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn. And so I put resources out there every single day. And then the Table Group, Patrick Lencioni and his team put out a book. They use fables to introduce their models. So you'll read a story. It's a short book. You'll read the story about applying Working Genius to your team. And then at the end of the book, it shows just a piece about the actual model. And then people like me are certified in assessing and working with teams on their Working Genius. So connect with me and I can help you out.
Awesome. Awesome. Great stuff. Your assessment is so helpful. There's only 15 questions, friends,
Correct.
and it scores itself right on there. So definitely, if folks are listening, definitely go to topteamaccelerator.com, get to know Margie more, and understand your working genius so you can help people plug into who they are and feel appreciated for who they are. Good stuff. Thanks, Margie.
Thanks, Phil.